Market Structure Mondays. There's Tim Kloss. What's up, sir? How we doing?
Good to see you. Boy, I ducked in just in time, didn't I? I heard.
Oh, no. I waited for you, Tim. I waited for you. I wasn't going to go to you when you weren't here. Don't worry.
Are those NFTs behind you? Printed NFTs?
They are. Yeah, exactly.
They're printed NFTs. You got one of leaves. What are those?
I'm sitting at the Zero George Hotel in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh wait, what hotel are you at?
Zero George. Do you know Zero George?
Is that the one right there in Charleston Square, right downtown? Is it the big one that has the mall and everything in it, or not?
That I think you're thinking of Marion Square, and there are two great hotels there.
Yeah,
too. The Bennett, the Bennett and the Marion Francis. Marion Francis, of course, being the fellow who the character that Mel Gibson plays in The Patriot is based on, the Swamp Fox. But Zero George is in the Ansonboro district, which is it's quieter, more residential. This building is from 1804 here behind me, and it's just lovely. I'd highly recommend Zero George. Great place to go.
Wow.
Nothing to do with hashtag Market Structure Monday.
Okay, so let's just start with Zoom. We were just talking about Zoom because they report earnings tonight. Can you give us a look at that market structure right now?
Yeah, let's have a look here.
And I want to ask you also about the short week because.
Okay, right. Yeah, it's important for folks to know what's occurring right now, including the short week, new options trading, how institutions and traders will think about that, what the money indicated last week during options expirations might happen. All of that stuff's very telling. So let me get rid of Fort Moultrie there. That is interesting though. Fort Moultrie. It was like trading last week. So Fort Moultrie is on June 28th, 1776, the British showed up to attack Charleston, and the Patriots hastily threw up some palmetto logs and leaves and so on, which is how South Carolina became the Palmetto State. And the British opened fire, kind of like traders did last week during options expirations, and those cannonballs stuck in the soft palmetto wood and leaves, and so that our side went down and retrieved them and lobbed them back at the British and sank two of their frigates and grounded two others, and they left. So that was our first victory in the Revolutionary War, believe it or not. So okay, now let's go.
History lesson, and he's going to give us the market structure. We get everything from Tim.
There you go.
It's where the Revolutionary War ended and the Civil War began.
It is. That is exactly right, Joel.
Joel knows everything. Joel.
And that is a great point, because Fort Moultrie is on the peninsula, and Fort Sumter is right in the water.
You gotta go to Fort Sumter. You gotta go to Fort Sumter.
Sounds awesome.
All right.
Okay, so looking at Zoom.
Yeah.
There's good and bad here for Zoom.
We want to hear the good.
So the good news is demand is rising. So if you look at the top graph, so here's the demand trend. So that's good news. If demand is rising, that's a plus. The trouble is supply is rising as well. So the trend, the 30-day trend for short volume is up, and you see this little jump above the supply trend. That's not great unless there is a surge, and there could be. This is a coin flip. This is not the perfect setup. I would prefer a divergent. I'd like to see sentiment like this. Where you have a demand sentiment rising and short volume well below trend. That's the kind of thing that will give you a lift almost every time. And notice that it did. So we don't have the same condition here, but it beats converging supply and demand, where demand is falling and supply is rising. I would say with the reaction from the market coming on Counterparty Tuesday, when banks true up books, it's a gamble. It's a gamble. You're taking a lot of risk, but there are a couple of things working for you.
Okay, so that's Zoom. So that's not bad. That's not bad.
Not great.
That's That's not bad. That's the best thing I've heard about
mixed.
Zoom in quite some time. So yeah, mixed.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Something to hang your head on here.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't trade that. It's not good enough for me, particularly given the context. A Wednesday, short day of trading. Institutions are not going to make big changes here. They're heavily hedged. We can see that. They're hedged long. That's the good news. But then right after Thanksgiving, you're going to get the T+2 window for everybody to get set for December. So because that'll be Friday the 26th, and then we have the 29th and 30th. That's T+2, trade day +2. And there are options and futures that expire on November 30. So during this window, while stocks have historically done well around Thanksgiving, you have to realize that it's not the time to make some big commitment to a position. This is where you want to have, if you have your higher risk trades, you want to make sure the probabilities are stacked in your favor, because speculators will be out in force. They're the ones who will dominate during this period. And if you can find where they're going, you can make money.
That's interesting. I think a lot of us have seen the stats that, if not, you've seen them maybe this morning, but because there's a lot of articles out this morning, stocks historically tend to perform well this week, right? The week of Thanksgiving. Is there any market structure reason for that, you think, or not really?
Well, I think it's that. I think particularly over the last, let's call it, decade, where the market reflects the rules of regulation national market system, meaning that it's easier to bias the market toward the bid or the offer with more intermediation. And so if you're into the last week of November and you're setting up for what's going to happen in December, where you want to be positioned to end the year, you're unlikely to run into any giant whales in the water. So if you're a good trader, it's a great time for the market to move, and you can move the market. So you add that together with coming right out of an options expirations period for November, and then the interruption of Thanksgiving, then the end of the month. There's an opportunity to exploit supply-demand imbalances, and I think that's why it tends to work well. And so that's what you would want to do. That's what you'd want to take advantage of. And if I look at the data, well, where is it, right? Where's the money going? I can tell you broadly what happened last week during options expirations. Hedge funds were the lead behavior, active hedge funds. We could see there was that part of the market was up 9% in small caps, the Russell 2000. It was up about 8% in the S&P 500, and short volume dropped to close to 42%, which is an epic low, believe it or not. It tends to average 44 to 45%. So that tells us that hedge funds are set up for a pretty strong start to December. And so then they're going to concentrate on pieces of the market where they can move things best. Notice this, that the Benzinga November 22, that's today, portfolio, it has exactly what we want. Demand rising, supply falling. So I'm isolating some things where I think that can happen. Where's the money going to go? Well, like Synaptics. Here's a great example of a stock that could do well in the next few days. It's not that I want to buy 10s, but just look at this. This is beautiful. So it's been a 10, and supply now is plunging. Well, that's the kind of stock that could move 4, 5, 6, 8% in a very short space. I'm not saying it will. You never know when those things are going to end. But that's the kind of stuff. This data tells us, okay, hedge funds like that. We look at
it's telling me market makers don't like that too. When you start seeing supply start to fall off a cliff like that, and the stock chart that's just straight up here, it's like market makers we'll lay off on this one a little bit here because we're getting run over on the sell side. So
exactly. Yep. I agree. So there's an opportunity there. I think the FANG, surprisingly to me, I would not have expected it, look pretty good. Here's Shopify that's been, it's a volatile stock. It's one of those stocks that can move on you very suddenly. But if I look at this, there's clearly excess demand, and there's been a downtick in supply. Supply is pretty high. That's what makes Shopify very volatile. But I'd look at that and say Shopify could go higher into Thanksgiving. I look at if I were to pick the best of that lot, it's not going to give you big gains. But Google, the non-voting shares, Goog, look pretty good. And it's because demand is level and supply is falling. That's the kind of thing that tells me that maybe bigger money wants to park in that through Thanksgiving. And so, hey,
A little
we'll
bit of a
take
safety
advantage
trade
of that.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. Same with Pepsi. If you look at Pepsi, this is not a stock that's going to produce gains, but because it spends so much time at 5. But I look at this again and say, well, demand's at 5, supply just plunged way below the trend. Well, once again, I think money's going to park there over Thanksgiving. Well, we could too, right? If you can do a little better than cash in a volatile market, maybe that's where you want some of your resources. How about Tesla? I'm not saying, we talked about Tesla last time and we said, okay, the demand was falling, but so did supply. So probably Tesla was going to be fine. And sure enough, it was. And now you have supply beginning to rise, demand still below trend. Again, this is not the kind of thing that produces an off to the races run, but if you backed up here to August, it actually was a nice beginning. It was, supply fell, demand rose, and the stock was a very nice stock to trade. Could that be occurring again? It's possible. So there's some very good ideas as we head into Thanksgiving.
Can I throw a new one at you? Or
Sure.
I'd just be curious to see where like Macy's or Kohl's looks like now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
After a vicious Friday, like how quickly does your data respond to
a
move, like a complete reversal move in the case of Kohl's, where it breaks out on earnings, closes strong, and then just they pull the rug right out from it the next day and then goes weak? How quickly does your data respond to that?
Well, sentiment is meant to give you a rolling average. So
right.
It's not going to dramatically shift to that. In fact, I'd look at Macy's and say Macy's is a good stock to own yet. The full effect, the full JANA Partners effect, that's an activist fund. And I'll say again, Macy's is a customer of ours on the corporate side, and we warned them about that. We could see that in the data that there was activist risk. That's still a good stock to own because look what happened to supply. The reason that happened to Macy's and Kohl's and a number of others was triple witching. It's options. If you've just levered into options, you are going to. It's almost like exercising an options. If I'm an insider and I exercise options, I will round turn it. So I get to buy it at a steeply discounted price, and I do it in one turn, and I sell it at the same time through an agent. Like E-Trade did that for a lot of corporations. That's who served us when I was an insider at a company. So we would round turn our stuff. Well, then they dump it. So that's what happens in these situations. Is why we advise companies don't report results on when options expire, because you're going to destroy things. It's far better to be on the other side where there's higher risk, less time decay. Why not report after expirations so that you don't put your shareholders at risk? Oops, sorry, I've got background noise here.
That's fun.
And there's almost nothing I can do about it, so I'm gonna have to walk with you.
That's okay. We kind of like the background noise. It was relaxing. I need stuff to relax me in the morning.
That's great.
I like to walk around the hotel. This is awesome.
I was just rescued.
What do you got? A little 5-bedroom suite? It's not even.
He's bouncing around. You're back to the leaves.
It's a fabulous place. Yeah, I've got a veranda out here, and it's really.
Charleston Place was the place that I was thinking of. Charleston Place was the hotel.
I'm going to give you 2 more here, Tim, and the chat wants to know about Coinbase. It's obviously a widely traded stock. It's a stock that had an impressive October, and it's kind of cooled off here in the last week or two. So is this a cooling period to start to reload on our Coinbase? Same thing with, this tracks Bitcoin so closely. So obviously when you're looking at Coinbase, it's going to probably mimic the chart of Bitcoin as well. But COIN, what's your system saying about that one?
Yep. Just wanted to look quickly at Kohl's. There's Kohl's, by the way. So Kohl's had steeply falling demand off of a very high level of supply, but that's already reversing too. This is the kind of thing that could get a pop, the other side of options expirations for Kohl's. So keep that in mind. That tells us that the chart tells us people bought or rolled calls. So with the new series trading today, there could be excess demand and.
Oh, we lost him. Oh, no.
They cut him off at the hotel. He was bouncing around too much.
That's no good. All right.
We're just going to get to Coinbase.
If we can get Tim back, we can get Tim back.
I'll do my level on Coinbase.
He's back.
Yes, excellent.
Okay, am I back? Yeah, I lost my connection there for a bit. Sorry, guys.
You're good. It's actually been a good connection. Coinbase.
Okay, here we.
No, he's just going to get, but we can see it. At least we can see it.
Coinbase has been fabulous.
Okay, we got it.
And notice once again, important lesson. Okay, good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, not really.
Yes.
Am I here? Okay. So, quick lesson, traders. This is why if you have a 10 into, if you got 10 out of 10 demand into options expirations, sometimes that's a good reason to take your gains because strategies change at options expirations. But this isn't bad. So it's reverted to 5. And supply is beginning to fall below trend. That's a stock that could post additional gains and might see a surge in demand into Thanksgiving. It's possible again. I'm not saying again that it will, but those are the kind of conditions that are very high probability, predictable outcomes that we have seen.
I like the Coinbase chart here. It's above 320. So as long as it stays above 320, I kind of like this pullback as another reload opportunity. I have no position in it, but I kind of like the setup.
Yep, I agree. Yeah.
And then the last one, Upstart, which has actually turned from bliss to piss, it seems like. And I can say that because they passed that one, that swear word. But UPST was loved in August, loved in September, loved so much in October that CNBC had the guest on there and they didn't even know what they did, but he was fully loaded on. And now you've seen the stock get halved in basically a month. Is there an opportunity here to buy the dip in UPST, or has this just gotten too ugly that you just stay away until the dust settles?
I think there could be a return of opportunity. You can see what happened. And Upstart was one of the stocks we highlighted as well because it was spending a lot of time at 10. We can isolate for that. And so this whole time at 10 with short volume way below trend, that's what gives you a big run. When that ends and supply is well above trend and demand falls, that's probably the end of the run. It did get a little bit of a boost right at October options expirations, but then it ended into the end of October. Here we have demand that is staying below 5. The good news is look what has happened to the supply side. That suggests to me that today people will bet long on options. They will be buying call options because the counterparties, the big brokers, have covered shorts. So it's possible, but it's higher risk than it was before.
Tim Quast joins us every single Monday for Market Structure Mondays. Market Structure Edge is his platform. The link to sign up is on the screen. It's in the description. They've got good data. Check it out. Tim, have a great Thanksgiving.
Have a great Turkey Day.
Hey, thank you. You guys too.